Hey, thanks for joining me. BigDaddyBigz here, productreviewdude.com. And today is January the 15th. This is Through the Bible in a Year with Big Daddy Bigz. I'm here every day reading the scriptures to you. We're taking 4 chapters a day. And today's chapters are Exodus 7 through 10. And I'm going to ask you a favor. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the video. If you like being read to, give us a thumbs up. If this has been a blessing to you, I'm going to ask that you share this with your friends. Maybe it'll be a blessing to them, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. We're reading the Word of God. You're hearing it. Your faith is being lifted. Maybe someone else's faith will be lifted as well. So let's get started. Exodus chapter 7. So Adonai said to Moses, "See, I have set you as God to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother will be your prophet. You are to speak all that I command you, and Aaron your brother is to speak to Pharaoh, so that he will let Bani Israel go out of this land. Yet I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh will not listen to you. So I will lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth my armies, my people Bani Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. The Egyptians will know that I am Adonai when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring out Bani Israel from among them." So Moses and Aaron did as Adonai commanded them. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. Adonai told Moses and Aaron, "When Pharaoh speaks to you, saying, 'Prove yourselves with a miracle,' then you are to say to Aaron, 'Take your staff and cast it down before Pharaoh, so that it may become a serpent.'" So Moses and Aaron went in to Pharaoh and did as Adonai had commanded. Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh called for the wise men and the sorcerers, and they too, the Egyptians of Egypt, did the same with their secret arts. For each man threw down his staff, and they became serpents, but Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Yet Pharaoh's heart was hardened, so he did not listen to them, just as Adonai said. 10 plagues begin. Blood. Then Adonai said to Moses, "Pharaoh's heart is stubborn. He refuses to let my people go. But go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is coming out of the water, and stand ready to meet him by the bank of the Nile. Take the staff that was transformed into a serpent in your hand. You are to say to him, 'Adonai, God of the Hebrews, has sent me to you, saying, let my people go, so they may serve me in the wilderness, and behold, you have not listened.' This is what Adonai says. By this you will know that I am Adonai. Behold, I will strike the waters that are in the river with the staff that is in my hand, and they will be turned to blood. The fish that are in the river will die, the river will become foul, and the Egyptians will hate to drink water from the Nile." Adonai said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over their rivers, over their streams, over their pools, and over their ponds, so that they become blood. There will be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, even in wooden and stone containers." So Moses and Aaron did as Adonai commanded. He lifted up the staff and struck the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and his servants, and all the waters of the Nile turned to blood. When the fish that were in the river died, the river became so foul that the Egyptians could not drink water from the river. The blood was throughout all the land of Egypt. But the magicians of Egypt did the same with their secret arts. So Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not listen to them, just as Adonai said. Pharaoh turned and went into his house, and did not even take it to heart. So all the Egyptians dug around the river for water to drink, because they could not drink of the water from the Nile. 7 days were fulfilled after Adonai struck the Nile. Then Adonai said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'This is what Adonai says. Let my people go, so they may serve me. If you refuse to let them go, see, I will strike all your territory with frogs. The river will swarm with frogs. They will go up and enter your house, into your bedroom, upon your bed, into the houses of your servants, upon your people, into your ovens, and in your kneading bowls. The frogs will climb up on you, your people, and all your servants.'" Chapter 8. Frogs, gnats, and flies. Then Adonai told Moses, "Say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff over the rivers, canals, and pools, and cause frogs to come up over the land of Egypt." So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land. But the magicians did the same with their secret arts, and brought up frogs over the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, "Pray to Adonai that he would take the frogs away from me and from my people. Then I will let the people go, so they may sacrifice to Adonai." Moses answered Pharaoh, "Boast about me after I pray for you. When am I to pray for you, your servants, and your people, that the frogs would be cut off from you and your houses, and remain only in the Nile?" "Tomorrow," he said. So he said, "Let it happen according to your word, so that you may know that there is none like Adonai, our God." Excuse me. "The frogs will depart from you, your houses, from your servants, and from your people, then will remain only in the Nile." After Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, Moses cried out to Adonai concerning the frogs which he had brought upon Pharaoh. So Adonai acted according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out in the houses, the courts, and the fields. They piled them together in large heaps, and the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he hardened his heart and did not listen to them, just as Adonai had said. So Adonai said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the earth, and it will become gnats throughout all the land of Egypt." So they did. When Aaron stretched out his hand, his staff, and struck the dust of the earth, there were gnats on men and animals. All the dust of the earth became gnats throughout all the land of Egypt. When the magicians attempted the same with their secret arts to bring forth gnats, they could not. There were gnats on men and animals. So the magicians said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not listen to them, just as Adonai had said. Then Adonai said to Moses, "Rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. As he comes to the water, say to him, 'This is what Adonai says, let my people go so that they may serve me. Or else, if you do not let my people go, I will send the swarm of flies on you and on your servants, on your people, and into your houses. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of the swarm of flies, including the ground that they stand on. But on that day I will set apart the land of Goshen, where my people are dwelling, except no swarm of flies will be there, so that you may know that I am Adonai, am in the midst of the earth. I will make a distinction between my people and your people. By tomorrow this sign will happen." Adonai did just so. A massive swarm of flies went out into the house of Pharaoh and into his servants' houses. All the land of Egypt was ruined because of the swarm of flies. So Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron and said, "Go sacrifice to your God in the land." But Moses said that would not be right, for the offerings we intend to sacrifice to Adonai, our God, are an abomination to the Egyptians. If we sacrifice what is an abomination to the Egyptians, wouldn't they stone us? We must walk a 3-day journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to Adonai, our God, just as he tells us." Pharaoh said, "I will let you go so that you may sacrifice to Adonai your God in the wilderness. Only you must not go very far away. Pray for me." So Moses said, "See, I am leaving you, and I will pray to Adonai that the swarm of flies will depart from Pharaoh, his servants, and from his people tomorrow. However, let Pharaoh no longer deal deceitfully by not letting the people go sacrifice to Adonai." Then Moses went out from Pharaoh and prayed to Adonai. Adonai acted according to the word of Moses and removed the swarm of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. Nothing remained. But Pharaoh hardened his heart this time also, and did not let the people go. Chapter 9. Livestock, Boils, and Hail. Then Adonai said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh and tell him, this is what Adonai, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go, so they may serve me. For if you refuse to let them go and hold them still, behold, the hand of Adonai will fall upon your livestock that are in the field, on the horses, donkeys, camels, herds, and flocks. There will be a crushing plague, but Adonai will make a distinction between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt, and nothing will die that belongs to Bnei Israel." Also Adonai set a specific time, saying, "Tomorrow Adonai will do this thing in the land." Then the next day Adonai did the deed. All the cattle of Egypt died, yet the cattle of Bnei Israel, not one died. When Pharaoh inquired, there was not so much as one of the cattle of Bnei Israel dead. But the heart of Pharaoh was stubborn, and he did not let the people go. Then Adonai said to Moses and Aaron, "Take handfuls of soot from the furnace, and have Moses throw it heavenward in the sight of Pharaoh. It will become fine dust over all the land of Egypt, and will become boils erupting with sores on both men and animals throughout all the land." So they took soot from the furnace and stood before Pharaoh. When Moses threw it heavenward, it became boils erupting with sores on both men and animals. Moreover, the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, because they were on the magicians as on all the Egyptians. But Adonai hardened the heart of Pharaoh, so he did not listen to him, just as Adonai had said to Moses. Then Adonai said to Moses, "Rise up early in the morning, stand before Pharaoh, and say to him, this is what Adonai, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go, so they may serve me. For this time I will send all my plagues to your heart, and on your servants, and on your people, so that you may know that there is none like me in all the earth. Surely, by now, I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with a plague that would have wiped you off the face of the earth. However, I have let you stand for this reason, to show you my power, and that my name might be proclaimed throughout all the earth. Yet still you exalt yourself over my people by not letting them go. Behold, tomorrow at this time I will cause it to rain a very severe hailstorm, the likes of which has not occurred in Egypt since the day it was founded until now. Send word, shelter your cattle and all you have in the field, for every person and animal found in the field and not brought home, when the hail comes down on them, they will die. Whoever feared the word of Adonai among the servants of Pharaoh had his own servants and cattle flee into the houses. But whoever disregarded the word of Adonai left his servants and cattle in the field. Then Adonai said to Moses, Stretch out your hand toward heaven, and let there be hail in all the land of Egypt, on people, animals, and every plant of the field throughout all the land. So Moses stretched out his staff toward heaven, and Adonai sent thunder and hail. Fire came down on earth, and as Adonai rained hail on the land of Egypt, the hail fell very severely, with fire flashing up amidst the hail, the likes of which had not occurred in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. The hail struck down everything that was in the fields, both men and animals, all throughout the land of Egypt. It also struck every plant of the field and broke down every tree. Only in the land of Goshen, where Bani Israel were, was there no hail. So Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron, and said to them, I have sinned this time. Adonai is righteous, while I and my people are wicked. Pray to Adonai that there has been enough of God's thunders and hail. I will let you go. You don't have to stay any longer. Moses said to him, As soon as I am gone out of the city, I will stretch out my hands to Adonai. The thunder will cease, and there will be no more hail. So you may know that the earth is Adonai's. But as for you and your servants, I know that you do not yet fear Adonai Elohim. The flax and the barley were destroyed, because the barley was in the ear, and the flax was in the bloom. But the wheat and the spelt were not destroyed, because they ripen later. Moses went out of the city, away from Pharaoh, and stretched out his hands to Adonai. Then the thunder and hail ceased, and rain no longer poured down on the earth. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain, the hail, and the thunder had ceased, he increased his sin and hardened his heart, both he and his servants. So Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not let Bani Israel go, just as Adonai had said by Moses' hand. Chapter 10. Locusts and darkness. Then Adonai said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh, because I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, so that I might show these signs in their midst. And so you may tell your son and your grandchildren what I have done in Egypt, as well as my signs that I did among them, so you may know that I am Adonai. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, This is what Adonai, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long would you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, so they may serve me. Or else, if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts on your borders. Then they will cover the face of the earth, so that no one will be able to see the ground. They will eat the remainder of what has escaped. Whatever is left from the hail, and eat every tree that grows for you out in the field. Your houses will be filled, as will the houses of your servants and the houses of all the Egyptians, as neither your fathers nor your grandfathers have ever seen since the day they were on the earth until today. Then he turned and went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh's servants said to him, How long will this man be a snare to us? Send the men so they may serve Adonai their God. Don't you realize yet that Egypt is being destroyed? So Moses and Aaron were brought to Pharaoh again. Go serve Adonai your God, he said, but who will be going? Moses answered, We will go with our young and our elderly, our sons and our daughters. We will go with our flocks and our herds. We must have Adonai's feast for him. But he said to them, So may Adonai be with you. If I ever do let you go with your little ones, see clearly now, evil is in your face. Not so. Go now, the men, and serve Adonai, for that's what you were seeking. Then they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. Then Adonai said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locust, so they may come up onto Egypt and eat every plant in the land, everything the hail has left. So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and Adonai brought an east wind over the land all that day and all night. When it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. The locusts came up all over the land of Egypt and rested. The locusts came up over all the land of Egypt and rested on the entire territory of Egypt. So dense, there was nothing like it before them, nor will there ever be again. For they covered the face of the whole earth so that the land was darkened. And they ate every plant in the land and all the fruit from the trees that the land had left. No green thing remained, not a tree or a plant of the field throughout all of the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh quickly called for Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against Adonai, your God, and against you. Now forgive my sin, only this once, please. So pray to Adonai, your God, just so he would take this death away from me. So he went out from Pharaoh and prayed to Adonai. Then Adonai turned the wind from the west very strong, and it carried off the locust and drove them into the Sea of Reeds. Not one locust remained in all the territory of Egypt, but Adonai hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let Bani Israel go. Then Adonai said to Moses, Stretch out your hand toward heaven, and there will be darkness over the land of Egypt, and a darkness that may be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. They could not see one another, nor could anyone rise from his place for 3 days. Yet all Bani Israel had light within their dwellings. Pharaoh called Moses and said, Go serve Adonai. Only let your flocks and your herdsmen Only let your flocks and your herds remain. Your little ones may also go with you. But Moses said, You must also put sacrifices and burnt offerings into our hand. Then we will do it for Adonai, our God. Our cattle must go with us. Not a hoof may be left behind. We must take from them to serve Adonai, our God. We ourselves will not know how we will serve Adonai until we arrive there. But Adonai hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he was unwilling to let them go. So Pharaoh said to him, Go away from me. Take heed never to see my face again, because on the day you do, you will die. Right, Moses said. You said it. May I never see your face again. Join us tomorrow, be January 16th, and we'll be doing chapters 11 through 14. Y'all have a blessed evening. Again, like the videos, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.